Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Crime and Entertainment. I am Hollywood Wade, and we have here again, for his second time on the show, Mr. William Steele. Now, William, you've been a busy guy. You've been down there in Florida taking care of some business. As we said earlier, this is your second time back on the show. But tell me first, how did everything go in Florida? What all did you get accomplished? What all did you get into down there?
How you doing there? It's wonderful to be back. I appreciate you having me back.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you got a phenomenal show, and I want to give a shout out to Liz Coppola, the Godmother agent. She connected us. She's my agent, and
Absolutely.
she's phenomenal. So we've been working together. She's been getting me a bunch of interviews along with the network, and I've been introducing her to some of the celebrities I've been getting to know. So she's going to be having them, at her disposal. But
I'll tell you what, networking can open doors that degrees can't even begin to open.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm humbled. I was in prison just a few months ago, and everything's happening so fast. So yeah, I'm doing fine. It's wonderful to be back, and I have so many interviews lined up right now. It's they're just rolling in. I'm just so blessed.
Well, I bet it. I mean, it's because of your content. The information that you have is stuff that people want to hear. And while you were down there in Florida, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you actually go to what it was like one of Epstein's houses or something like that and do like kind of a live interview there?
Right. It's been a long time since I've been back to the Epstein's Palm Beach mansion. It's on a street called El Brillo. It kind of ends at it dead ends at the Intercoastal Waterway, and so we got back a few days ago. Um, I'm in the Midwest now. I'm from New York City. I'm in the
Right.
Midwest, and I'm filming this TV show for A&E Network. But it was surreal going back down there. It's just as much as changed. There's a lot that hasn't changed. Um, Going back into Palm Beach, don't forget this property. Last time I set foot there, I was actually with Ghislaine Maxwell, and I barely got out with my life. People don't know the stories and the things that were inflicted on other people. And I take nothing away from the female victims. They went through hell and back. But from reading my book, um, right here, Ghislaine, Sensational, Impure,
Mm-hmm.
that I took a big chance writing it because
You did.
I name names and I'm getting ready to more names. I was a integral part of that household, but not what was going on with the kids. I was in a romantic slash sexual relationship with Ghislaine, and who I called G, as I told you before.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing turned into another where she was inviting other adult women for threesomes. And Jeffrey, he was, I guess, went both ways. He tried to include himself, and I basically threatened to shoot him. And, at the time, but so he held a grudge over that. And another threat I made to him the very first day I met him. And so I noticed a lot of traffic going in and out of there, and so I was very uncomfortable with it. I was told they were models, they were masseuses, and I didn't really feel comfortable there. I had been at a locksmith company in New York. I'm a alarm and safe technician, and so I know about security and surveillance. And I just knew that everything they're doing in that house, I just sensed at a gut level was recorded, which was verified to me later by Jeffrey himself when he showed me numerous videos. Um, she was trying to get me compromised. I know now. I didn't realize it then because I'm not into young, underage women, but constantly trying to invite people to join us. And I just said no. They look young or whatever, and you know. But so the last time I was there was a really horrific experience. I left with some evidence. I wrote something inside one of the closets. I discussed all the details of this in my book, which you can see in the description, the link. I wanted to get into a few things that with this Maxwell case. I'll give you an example. A lot of people that are, you might not consider me a victim because I'm a guy, and I put myself in these situations, but I was bringing things to the house, jewelry, coke, this, that, and I was doing that because I had caught Epstein putting his hands on a young girl's ass in Palm Beach at a jewelry store.
Mm-hmm.
And I confronted him and I pulled the gun, but I was wanted at the time. So he was so paranoid of me and what I was going to do about that. He got a few things from me. Probably he didn't need to deal with me. And this is how this developed into this friendship of mutual usury, because they had money. I was a jewel thief and I was getting in and out of this mansion and then doing whatever I felt like with Ghislaine and her, some of her adult assistants. Well, the last time I saw her, and you can read it in the book that's in your description about Ghislaine, I was restrained and I was threatened and taken advantage of for about a day and a half. I detail it in the book. And so there was discussion as late as then about her desire, and she was being pushed from outside forces that they were aware there was an investigation closing in on them. And this is before Jeffrey was arrested in Palm Beach. And they wanted my help. Don't forget, I ran around with briefcases with coke or jewelry, and I always had a gun in there with a silencer on it.
Right.
I wasn't hurting anybody. I know it sounds ridiculous, but because I was such a loner, I wanted to flash that on drug dealers I was dealing with, you know, not to screw with me, and jewelers, fences. Everybody's a crook. Don't F with me because, you know, I'm strapped. And not only am I strapped and doing illegal stuff, nobody's going to hear it. So it was a message. It wasn't that I was using the damn thing. But because of that, I've had a few people over the years say, hey, you know, I need this person killed, this, that. It's happened more than once, right? So because of the way I carried myself. And so there came a point where she was a little drunk and we were in the middle of whatever, and she was discussing wanting Jeffrey Epstein killed. This was in 2005. And I was, you know, beside myself, like I wanted to hear her out. And she was saying, everything's closing in. We have information that some of the things we're involved with. And she didn't really get in detail of what they were involved with, but I had already seen the videos. Jeffrey had showed me some videos.
So why did he show you the videos? That's one thing I wanted to ask. Why did he show them to you? Was it just, I mean, just out of, I guess, just showing you that he could pull this kind of stuff off? I mean, what was the motive?
Because I believe, because I was a smart ass Brooklyn guy, sarcastic. He was from Brooklyn. And I was putting him in his place constantly. With guys like that, you have to be a little more forceful and put them in their place, you know. And once I got close with her and I was already in and out of the house, and my friend had cameras in the jewelry store where I saw this, I put a veiled threat. Look, I can get those videos anytime you want. And your hands all over, you know, inside this girl's shorts in a public place. She looked like she was a 13-year-old Jodie Foster from a Taxi Driver. And so this is, I had him basically, you know, but I was wanted and I had, you know, illegal things with me. And so he was so resentful of the way I had trapped him. And I should have said it. I should have went to my friend, paid him for the videos and just kept them.
Yeah.
But because he has way more money than me, Epstein, he probably might have went and got them also. So he resented so much that I did that. He had trapped me in a room one time when I was with Ghislaine and another woman. And he had a security guy with him. And it was clear I wasn't allowed to leave the room. I said, I want to show you something. You know, you think you know me. And he put these videos on, and it was sex with minors. It was sex with many prominent people. Some of them have been named in the media, some who haven't. And he showed me Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew was with several people, including more than one at one time. And I was flipping. I said, I'm not going to live through this experience. I'm going to disappear in this house. I'll never be seen again. And I just watched it. I said, what's the point of you showing me this? And he goes, well, let me tell you something. He said, you never want to take invitations to do, you know, what she's asking you to do. And I know you're into, you know, this, that, and the other thing. I said, but I'm not into young girls like you are. I said, so you can do what the fuck you want to me. Excuse my language. You can do what you want to me. I'm never going to participate in that. And all the people you caught on camera look like they don't even know they're being filmed, including Andrew. And he specifically named Andrew as being his Super Bowl trophy. Now, I've been in counseling over this for many, many years. I came forward years ago. They all swept it under the rug, but I have proof. I also interviewed with The Sun, the New York Post, all these publications telling the story. Whenever I took out of that house, when I escaped with my life, was turned in to authorities. Now, is there something else out there? You know, I can't say right now, but bulk of what needed to go to authorities went, nothing was ever done about it. And so there's a ton of people who I've seen on there. And I will say, yes, both Clintons, and which was really astounding because I had heard, you know, rumors that Hillary Clinton was bisexual and all this. And a friend of mine was at the White House, his friend, actually, friend of a friend, he was a detective. his friend was a White House, I think, Secret Service guy, something along those lines. And he was always talking about Hillary having a relationship with a black employee or person who works there. That was a lady. And then I heard other rumors about it, but now I'm seeing it with my own eyes. She's in threesomes with young girls on video at Epstein's house. Those videos exist. And I will tell you this, these arrests aren't over with. Here's why. The public corruption squad, FBI public corruption squad in New York, from what I understand, is the ones looking at this entire case with these people. There's heads of state on these videos. There's people that are massive names, as we all know. There's more coming out. Now, Epstein and Maxwell were not public officials. Who's on the tapes that was? So why are they assigned to this case? Because it has political implications.
Right.
Public corruption squad. And that's something that's a lot of times swept under the carpet. And there's so many people. And I have mental note of a lot of the names and some other evidence. But it's there. And I think she's got some stuff too still. And she's probably going to try to bargain something and then end up in hiding or getting herself killed or whatever. I don't know what's going to be.
I was very surprised that she didn't try to bargain something. But I think when you're in that kind of spot and you got those kind of names, more than anything, people want to keep that shit quiet instead of letting it get out. So that might have worked against her in that particular way. But I got to feel like she's got the dirt on somebody and a lot of people right now in a lot of high places, including, like you said, Prince and the Clintons. They're probably doing some sweating, and some movie stars that I heard too.
They're all, but there's also people from other countries and intelligence agencies wrapped up in this.
Yeah.
People are dying that you're not hearing about.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say. But people are literally dying trying to bring some of this forward. And at least two that you're aware of, Jean-Luc died, supposedly hung himself in a French prison. You know, of course, the cameras weren't working that day or didn't have him, or he wasn't being supervised, knowing the dirt he has on everybody with association with these people. And then, you know, Epstein dies, I don't know how many years after she was discussing it. And one of the things that she completely reassured that if I got involved with doing something, now I sense they had some intelligence connections. Says, well, you have so much money. Why the hell do you need me? I'm a freaking jewel thief. And to be honest with you, I carry the gun for protection. I'm not a hitman. Yeah. You know, I like to keep people a little intimidated because I'm running around with diamonds and kilos, you know, and I'm just, you know, I'm just me from Brooklyn, you know, and I don't look the part. So if people realize you have that, they're going to try to jack you, right?
Right.
So I kind of came clean with her. I said, look, it's for protection. I'm not a freaking hitman. And you have money to get anybody. And she says, yeah, but nobody knows you, you know? And I says, well, what's the alternative? And she was very clear that one of her terms was, Jeffrey's going to be the death of me, with the charges that they felt were coming. And of course they did come, South Florida. And that Hillary Clinton, because once I saw the videos, I said, well, you know, all these politicians, why can't they work things out? She said, Hillary Clinton assured me point blank, if I could help get this done, you know, and be alibi to be out of the picture, if I could help get this done, she'll make sure no charges ever brought against me. So in other words, Jeffrey would be dead, she'd be free and clear, and Hillary, you know, supposedly was going to do something to clear her, ensure she was never charged.
Wow.
Now, if you know Jeffrey Weiner, you know, and that whole story and all the stuff that was found on those computers, everybody connected or viewed those computers and law enforcement has turned up mysteriously dead. It's like 12 people. I think 8 or 10 of them have turned up mysteriously dead because it had all kinds of stuff with the Clintons and sex and this and that.
Yeah.
There's way more to this, which is one of the reasons I surveil myself 24/7 by multiple different ways. And it's a dangerous world out there. And we're not talking about mob. We're talking about way higher and more dangerous.
Oh yeah. The people that can do it. And then, like you said, sweep it under the rug. So if she would have been able to get you or somebody to take out Jeffrey.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It would just be swept under the rug and everybody would be clear.
Yep. I tell you something else that I describe it in the book, and it's so far fetched. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it. He had things going on beyond the sex trafficking and the minors, and we'll call it child transportation, so we don't get in trouble. The child transportation industry, that wasn't his thing. It was about satiating his and her sexual desires because she was just as freaky as he was and down with whatever. I can tell you from personal experience, it was about blackmailing prominent people, and a lot of the operations were, to my understanding now, I didn't know it back then, intelligence agency involved. And I'm not going to name the agencies, they're out there, but it's not my place to name those guys. I'm not trying to disappear, whatever. But so they felt very well protected. Don't you think it's ironic that the very attorneys that drafted the plea agreement in Florida have been outed as being on the videos, having sex with minors, allegedly? Some people have seen them. So they're so smart, they outsmarted themselves. They drafted him a plea agreement for the Southern District of Florida. And I was a law clerk. I know how this all works. The agreement was, 18 months or 13 months in the county jail, state time, county time. The feds agreed on a non-prosecution agreement that will resolve everything for him and for all known and unknown co-conspirators, including the attorneys, of course.
Right. Everybody involved.
So allegedly, the attorneys who were guilty were drafting the plea agreement that protected them. That's racketeering all day long. Even to this day, they could still be charged, and they know it. What they didn't think about, because they think they have all the answers, they forgot to incorporate the Southern District of New York. That plea only incorporated Southern District of Florida. That's why they were still able to arrest Epstein in New York and Maxwell in New York, because they are protected still in Florida.
Wow, the seeds of the corruption in this whole ordeal ran so deep, so far up the ladder and up the food chain, it's unfathomable. And if people want to get some more information, like I said, go get Mr. Steele's book. We're going to have links to that one in the show notes down there below. Ghislaine Maxwell, Sensational and Impure, almost named the G-spot, as we found out last interview. Go. I can't just push this book enough for you guys to go get this and get all the details, because like we said, this is a lot of stuff that most people are not privy to.
Almost no other insider has written a book. I'm the only fool doing it and looking over my shoulder.
Yeah, I'd keep that 24-hour surveillance you got going on with all those cameras. I'd keep that going as long as possible.
I often tell people I'm going to start in all my books. I have in the beginning of them, I have all that's needed for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing, right? So all this is allowed to continue, but what can be kept quiet is going to come to light. That's even in the Bible. So with surveillance cameras everywhere, what can you get away with really these days?
Not much.
A few things, but not for long, right? So I was joking because these people who were super prominent then, who I touched base with in California, there were celebrities too. I haven't finished telling my stories about these scumbags. So I tease that I'm going to start adding to all my books. If you've ever crossed me or became infamous, having known me and think you got away with something, and it's going to be written on a bullet, a big bullet. People say, I got a bullet with your name on it, right?
Yeah.
Mine's going to say, I got a book with your name on it. So there you got Robert Durst book over here. You got the Ghislaine Maxwell book, and they all thought they could outwit me or use me. And guess what? I get to tell the story and try to help people now. And that's what I want to do. I have my own true crime channel now, much like you're doing. Official William Steele. If you go to YouTube, please subscribe. Be very grateful. I just got out of prison. I'm trying to do this for a living now, writing books. Mm-hmm. I write about some of the characters I met along the way. I write about, I help crime victims, crime victim advocacy. With my fiance, I was a prison law clerk. So we work with people that are still in prison who are actually innocent, and with attorneys in New York, people across the country who are actually innocent and they're in prison. So I've turned my life around, and I am trying to make a living. I want to start up a 5-day-a-week podcast, something like you're doing, and a call-in show. I want to have crime victims on who are not getting answers. I want to speak about, my background very minimally, my stories, because there's tons of stories, things I've been involved with all over the country. But more so, I just really want to help people. I want to give back. I regret becoming the person I was for so many years. Another great interview that I saw, Jimmy Calandra. I don't know if you saw him.
Not yet.
He's been in touch with Liz. Liz that has that connection, and I know of him, and I'm from the same general neighborhood in Brooklyn, and so I like what he puts out there. He's trying to tell people basically the old lifestyle is a waste of time, and everybody's either ended up dead or in prison. And he says, you know what, the streets will never love you back. And so I've come to learn that the hard way. I put it like this: the days of darkness has caused me to see the light. I did so much time for nonviolent crimes. I was in prison for my burglaries and a grand theft and a flee and eluding from the cops. And then I escaped from prison and ended up on America's Most Wanted. So I spent 4 years in solitary confinement. And all I did was read and read and read. Started attending college courses. And I just want to turn it around. I want to do something good with the time I have left. You know, I did 18 years almost straight up in this last bit, even a little more than that. But I just want to turn it around and continue doing the right thing. And, you know, as you know, Wade, just before my release, you know, I met a young lady, a beautiful woman. You know, we're engaged now.
Mm-hmm.
She's a forensic accountant and a data scientist. She's light years above me in intelligence, and she's beautiful. You interviewed her on your last show. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
And so, you know, I put out these couple of books before I got out: Sex and the Serial Killer, My Bizarre Times with Robert Durst. And then over here, Ghislaine, Sensational Impure by Ghislaine Maxwell. I just want to continue doing the right thing and staying out of trouble. And I'm just blessed that people are taking an interest in my story. A month before my release, I'm offered a TV show on a major network. You'll see the sign above me. It's called Inmate to Roommate, and it's about looking at recidivism and how a lack of adequate housing upon release is one of the leading factors in recidivism, which means people repeating coming to prison. Mm-hmm. And that with drug abuse and addiction and all that, and alcoholism. Well, in my case, I have family in Brooklyn and in South Florida, but I had a situation where a significant $800,000 disappeared when I was in prison. And rather than deal with my family over this or see them because they were afraid of the old me or whatever, I just completely have avoided them for the last 14 months. You know, wow. And every time I try to touch base with them, they just ignore me because they know what they did. So, you know, they can tell their stories. I have the proof of what happened. I started fresh with people I didn't know that well who were pen pals of mine in prison. In Indiana, of all places. I'm from Brooklyn. I don't know anything about Indiana. You know, I'm the only guy running around here driving a black Cadillac. They're all driving SUVs and pickup trucks, you know. But so I'm here. There's a lot of good people here, but we did run into a prolific con artist try to rip us off.
Yeah, you told us about that.
Yes, and so I have a fresh start. We do this TV show, and so it's about me living with these people. It's called Inmate to Roommate, and it's on A&E Network, and it's a reality show. It premieres on August 18th. So what, in about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks?
Yep.
And they just released their trailer, brand new trailer for A&E. You know, these are the people that, you know, 60 Days In, Love After Lockup, all these people put these shows together. Same production companies, basically. But mine's on A&E, which to me is the top network. Thank you, A&E. Shout out. And I'm just blessed. You know, we've shot, my understanding is at least 10 episodes already. I can't talk about the details,
right?
But it shows the struggles that you go through and the challenges of dealing with people you never really knew that well. Now all of a sudden you know them, and you're forced to, you know, go by their rules when you're maybe on parole or you're this or you're that. And it's going to be an interesting show. So Inmate to Roommate on A&E.
Well, let me ask you a question about that. What do you think is, I guess maybe, do you think it's harder for people to get out and make it? I mean, you said this kind of speaks on recidivism, but is it set up for people to fail to go back in? Because to me, I've talked to some people that's come out and made it, and I've, know of people that came out and didn't make it and had to go back. And every one of them that I talked to that has made it and kind of got over that hump, they said it was one of the hardest things they ever had to do in their life, because you've got so much stacked against you. You know, you've got jobs that, kind of frown upon that. They won't want to give you a chance. There's so much against you that it's almost like it's set up to have you back in there.
In many instances it is, but with me, I'm a very, very driven, goal-oriented guy. If I set my sights on something, I don't take no for an answer. I find somebody else to tell me yes. So for many guys who maybe don't have that same drive, or, or they're still struggling with alcoholism or addiction. Now, in my case, I only ever did cocaine. I didn't do, pills and weed and drinking and this and that. But I started using coke in the 80s because of a friend died. And I got pretty hooked on it. But then I began trafficking kilos. So now I have all the coke in the world, from Florida to New York, very discreet. I'm, as you see, I'm pretty clean cut. All the extra jewelry comes off. I'm low key. I hit I-95 with a trunk full of cocaine and sometimes guns, even back then, machine guns, all kinds of stuff. And I was bringing in loads every few months to New York and with somebody else to Michigan. And so there was all this stuff going on, but I wouldn't be high when I was doing my burglaries or breaking into safes or hitting places or trafficking. I made sure that I was well rested for like 2 days. I would never be high. But I got off the track for a second, but I say that to say this. I reoffended, and it was usually because in those days when I was a younger guy, my 20s, 30s, and I was on parole or on supervision, I thought I could outwit everybody, and parole's not going to notice what I'm doing. Well, they do notice, and people tell them what you're doing when they're mad at you. And so I'd go to parole and play the game and try to beat the urine test and try to this and try that. In those days, I was very, very, I was high all the time. And so, I violated more than once, I've been to prison more than once. I think for me, there came a point where I realized I was a law clerk and I was on the offender representative committee, helping people read and write, tutoring, working with the chaplain, the mental health department, the medical departments, helping inmates understand their rights and navigate their rights, and then trying to resolve problems with the administration. Right. So I was like kind of like a mediator most of the time for many years. And I've always enjoyed helping people. My mother was mentally ill. And so I'm going back to doing that now, trying to put this behind me. But for me, what changed me was my mother was mentally ill. She died while I was in prison. People took advantage of that, stole a lot of money, and, told her I was dead, even though I wasn't dead. I was in prison. And it just was a heartbreaking thing to go through. It's the time combined with the loss you experience. My kids were told so many lies about me by their mothers. And, you can easily demonize somebody who's been to prison, who struggled with a cocaine addiction, but the artists that they follow on the internet or whatever, on social media, some of them have been to prison and struggled with it. Yeah. So it's just heartbreaking because, we're trying to repair relationships right now. And everybody questions you. You got how long before you screw up? Well, before it was a few months. Now it's been a year and a half. I could take a piss test now, a hair test, whatever you want to do. I'm clean. It's so far in my rearview mirror. And my faith is so strong to me. Towards the end, I took a lot of college courses. I wanted to be a writer and write about my experiences. And, I'm from the Gravesend section of Brooklyn, and I very much tried to fly under the radar. I noticed a lot of mob guys and stuff on these shows, and God bless them, that a lot of, most of them turned their life around. But I knew a lot of these guys from the neighborhood. I'd say hello or rush past. Now, my mother was Eleanor, and it would be, I was Billy when I was younger. So it was, that's crazy Eleanor's son, And so I avoided a lot of these people and their sons and all that because, not the mob guys, but some of the kids in the neighborhood, because some of them were nice to my mother, some would pick on her. So I would always come to her defense. And I've always had that ingrained in me. If you're a woman, a child, mentally ill, no matter what it takes, you got to be there for them because they're all more vulnerable than us, than guys. And so I was raised being very guarded of my mother. And then I started doing illegal things and heists. I had mob guys say, hey, there's a club out in Long Island. There's $2 million in the safe for the guy owns 2 clubs or 3 clubs. And there's money in the safe on a certain day. It might be over $1 million cash, blah, blah, blah. We want you to hit it. And first of all, they're ripping off their own people. And second of all, a relative of mine who would try to put me on these, I said to him, you're tight with these people. And I don't mind with selling coke and guns and all this shit over the years. But you're trying to send me on a heist with guys that when we get it somewhere, I'm going to catch a bullet in the back of my head because I'm not a made guy. They're probably going to steal the shit, and nobody's going to know what happened to Bill, to William. So I turned down a lot of opportunities to do stuff with people, although I didn't mind bringing stuff up from Florida and making that money because we knew that some of these people for years and years and years, and many of them were, violate the old rules of the mob anyway. Yeah. And buying coke, keep it quiet, don't tell anybody.
Yeah, that went on quite a bit. They tried to, I guess, say it didn't, but we all know that the drugs was it was kind of like you turn your head and say no with one, but you got your hand out behind your back with the other to collect the money, because they might have publicly said they didn't want to have anything to do with drugs, but I think it's largely known that the bosses made a ton of money off drugs.
Yeah, not only that, they claim one of the reasons what was his name, the one Paul Castellano was killed in front of Sparks, John Gotti, and this one that. was because he was getting the tapes. He was demanding the transcripts of the tapes on
Yep.
everybody, on John and this one, that one. And they were incriminating because they implicated them in drug trafficking. I mean, you know
Yeah.
what? They were all involved. They all knew it. These days, it's like I don't speak for all of them, of course. I'm not trying to make enemies here. Just about every one of them was cooperating. It's not what it was. And yet guys, like, even in prison, they'll say, oh, he's cooperating. That one's a snitch. That one's a snitch. I was a law clerk. Listen, I used to be sarcastic, Brooklyn sarcastic, and tell guys, you know what? Half the guys in prison are snitching on something. The other half wish they had something to tell on. So it's just the way it is. It's the way the system's set up. Nobody wants to serve the rest of their life in prison. And then the guys they get locked up are going to give the same chance to go lock some more people up. And so why would you trust anybody? I saw this happening in the 80s and dealt with nobody but one person. He was a relative. He's deceased now. And he was an Italian guy, connected guy. And I said, don't introduce me to any of them. I'll say hello in the neighborhood, but I don't want to get to know anybody. I don't want anybody knowing what I do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got a heck of a story, because not only do you have all these very interesting stories with interesting and famous and notorious, even in some ways, people that you've met along your life, you've done it all. You've went through the ups and downs of, illegal activity with your burglaries, and everything that landed you in jail for a long stretch of time. And for anybody, I think, to be able to come out of that and do the stuff that you're doing now, like you said, that's a different breed of person. Not everybody can do that. That's not something that everybody can do, especially after spending that long in prison. I mean, that can totally change how you operate. I mean, we've seen it in movies. Shawshank Redemption is a perfect example where guys spend so long in prison, they become acclimated to that, and the real world actually scares them to where they don't want to come back out because they won't know how to act.
I'll tell you some of that gets to me still, except for, I tell you what gets to me. Go to the mall. Everybody likes going to the mall and buying something, seeing what's new. A mall, a supermarket, man, I still get pretty insecure in large places with a lot of selection.
Yeah.
I get paranoid. Sometimes my girl, she's got to give me a hug and we got to walk out of the store. I don't know what that means. Probably some still post-traumatic stress from that and the shit I went through prior to prison. But I'm still uncomfortable in big spaces, and, I tease my girl, we just chill out. I write books now and try to help, crime victims. And I say, you're the best cellmate I ever had. So,
oh man,
there's not too much drama, she's a good girl, and hopefully I'm a good guy. And yeah, so we tease each other. I always tell her, I say, the best cellmate I ever had. I know no drama.
Well, that's very interesting, man, and I'm very happy that you not only did you come out of this and you're doing something positive, but you also met someone, and having someone that can be there for you, help you, support you along the way, give you that extra push when maybe you're getting down. That's a world of difference too that not everybody's as lucky to have. So it's strange to say, but even though you've been through everything that you've been through, you are a blessed guy. I really look at you as a blessed guy.
Well, listen, I know one thing: you can't play games with God. I'm not going to beat somebody over the head with the Bible. I'll still use the F word, and I'm not this perfect guy. Don't get me wrong, but my relationship with God is completely different from what it used to be. And I know that if I don't at least make effort to do things right, He's going to take His hand of blessings off my life. And I know I'm blessed. I'm humbled and grateful every freaking day for the opportunities I'm being given, like right out of the gate. And I sat in prison all these years, miserable and lonely, and poor me. I try to help people to stay busy, but the real me was like in the bed, like, man, what the frick have I done to my life? My family doesn't even talk to me right now. They're so mad at the drama that I brought, all the time. And I understand that, the struggle with cocaine and wondering if the FBI or the U.S. Marshals were looking for me. And, you put the people you love. My brother-in-law used to say, you're hurting innocent people by the things you do, and used to get that lecture all the time. And those words, they really ring in your ear because, my family, for the most part, some weren't so innocent, but others, I was hurting them.
Right.
My kids, I wasn't there for my kids. And I certainly didn't mean that. And it is what it is. It's unfortunate, but I believe in time things will turn the corner. Hopefully, everybody will see me in a different light. That I'm consistently doing the right thing, and that's all I can hope for. I think living well is the best revenge. You know, there's no point in me going after anybody for slights from the past or ripoffs. And I genuinely have tried to make peace with everybody. I think some people are so paranoid because of what they did to me. They're putting up this wall still. You know, it's almost comical,
Yeah.
but it is what it is, and I'm determined to make it. I'm out now, and there's nothing going to tempt me to bring me back. It's just not going to happen. I had that con artist dude turn from trying to try to con us, then try to involve me with his swindles.
Mhm.
Like I was going to church, and he would tell me, "Hey, I'll tell you what I do, and I'll bring you in. But the church you go to, you got to tell them you know an entrepreneur, and he's a great investor, and just let me do the talk, and just give me the introductions."
Well, I think that's one of the things that you could possibly run into going forward is people that have those agendas. They, you coming from the streets and being in the, in the midst of all that kind of stuff, you can spot things like that. You're going to have that edge that a more straight laced guy that hadn't experienced any of those things, they're not going to be able to spot quite as easy. And you have in your background, you're going to be able to pick that stuff up pretty quick. And that's going to create two things. It's either the people are going to leave you alone or they're going to try to see if you want in on it. And I think that's probably what happened there.
This guy here, you could Google him, Charles Ray Smith, Elkhart, Indiana. Serial con artist for decades, try to sell you properties he doesn't own, fake cancer cures, all kinds of crap. And then he's suspected to be a serial killer because many of his victims have turned up mysteriously killed. I have to say suspected, but he's admitted to killing his girlfriend a few months ago, and he's facing 120 years in prison. The guy's a real piece of work. He was posing when you try to assert yourself with him that he's a high-ranking member of the Hells Angels while he's operating as an informant for different agencies. And we know people, they've actually admitted this in a newspaper article that he was an FBI informant. And at the same time, if you look at the people he's put in prison, it's generally people he's ripped off in his swindles who threaten to go to the cops, and they suddenly wind up with a laptop, a gift from him loaded with child porn, and then the cops cave their door and put them in prison for 20 years, 15 years. So we're finding people like this. He set up a doctor, Dr. Leslie Marlin Scholl, took over $1 million from the poor guy, set him up on a fake murder for hire. The feds dropped the murder for hire. When have you heard of that? Ever? Never.
Yeah.
They dropped the murder for hire against the wife and the divorce lawyer, but they still put him in prison for transferring $300,000 in guns, machine guns, and silencers, all legal. The doctor was a legal gun owner in Indiana here. It's pretty wide open. And the guy offered to hold the guns. They didn't do proper paperwork. So he kept all the regular guns, sold them to a place out here for $45,000, and then $300,000 in guns. But some of them, the automatic weapons and silencers, required special authorization, paperwork, all this crap before anybody could even hold them for you.
Wow.
So he turned those over to the ATF and FBI or whatever it was, and they charged him with the illegal transfer of these class such and such weapons. So guess what? The poor doctor goes to prison 13 years, completely entrapment case, created in the mind of this informant, Charles Ray Smith. And so he's working to clear his name. This guy, Charles Ray Smith, he just perjured himself to a federal judge about a month ago. He said he was put under oath, said one thing. The next day they called him on it. They said, Your Honor, he perjured himself the day before. So we're waiting for him to get charged with that, a couple of murders and stuff that they're holding up, against him soon. It's just crazy. Anyway, it's in the rearview mirror. And so this weekend we're filming again. Actually tomorrow all day we're filming again for the show. Oh. So they're already here in town. I spoke to the producer earlier. Can't tell you much about what's going on or what we're filming, but relation to Inmate to Roommate, the story of me getting on my feet.
Well, we're going to certainly push that for our listeners, because anytime we have somebody on that's, got a ongoing project or an upcoming project, that's what we like to do is give some appreciation for them coming on the show and plug that. So we'll put the trailer in our show notes. We'll push that as much as we can, even, when it gets closer to drop time. And we're going to put your YouTube channel in the show notes, because I think you have the background and the knowledge to where you can probably, I think, hold your own with about any interviewer and any interview type, a person that comes along, be it someone that's, been a victim of a crime, or someone that was charged with something, or someone that used to do some of the things that you do. You have that a personality that I think can work with all of them. So we're going to put your YouTube channel down there where people can go follow that. and just try to get your name out there, man, because I see a lot of good things in you, and I think you're gonna make some waves, man. Just keep doing what you're doing, and I'm glad you came back on for this second sit down.
I appreciate it, and the extended offer that whoever would like to be on the show, or if you have a family member who was murdered and you're not getting answers from the police, we're going to try to put the police on, respectfully, and the investigators on the case, as well as the victim's family members, and, try to help these people. Same thing with people that really have, some celebrities I know are going to be on. They've already committed. My attorney, Peter Tickton, he's representing Donald Trump right now in a racketeering lawsuit against Hillary Clinton. Now, he's my mentor. He's one of my best friends, Peter, but he was also friends with Trump.
Right.
And he's put a gigantic racketeering lawsuit against Hillary Clinton about 3 months ago, I think it is. And so Peter's going to be one of the people I'll be interviewing soon about the status of the litigation with Trump, and how he and I came to meet, and how he supported me when I was in prison. And yeah, Peter's a wonderful guy. He's got a big law firm in Florida. And of course, Liz. So I'll probably have, I will have him on. I want to have people on, like even my agent, get Liz Coppola on the show. And
of course.
And I respect people like you that have recognized what's going on with me before I was able to talk about it too much. Right. Now that the network has released a trailer for the program, it's on, because they're lining up tons of interviews just before the launch. And then these interviews are technically just about my books. I can't get much into the show, and they give me a lot of guidance on what I can and cannot say. So people who have a hustle and have believed in me early on, and I know you're trying to build your channel, I want to make room for guys like you to come on, even if it's just 30 minutes, to really explain what you're doing and why you're doing it. Because I know your passion. I know you do your research well, and you're probably one of the best interviews I've ever been on. So I just want to let you know.
Well, I certainly appreciate that. That means a lot, because like you said earlier, you've been a busy guy doing these things. So I'm sure you've knocked out quite a few in the last couple of months. And well, Mr. Steele, we wish you nothing but the best going forward, man. You're welcome back here to Crime and Entertainment anytime. And again, we wish you all the best, man. It's good to see, good fortunes happening to people that want to do positive things. And it seems like that's what you're doing. And again, we want to wish you nothing but the best going forward.
That's right. It's a struggle, man, but I'm making it. I appreciate all the support. Please visit Official William Steele. Subscribe, tell people about it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, look, man, again, I can't tell you how much I'm enjoyed having you back. I'm sure we'll have you back on again at a later date. I know you're a busy guy, so again, we really appreciate you making the time to come back on the show.
Wade, you take care, man.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am Hollywood Wade. That was author William Steele, and unfortunately, we are out of time. Tune in next week for an all-new episode of Crime and Entertainment. William, we appreciate it, my friend.
Hollywood Wade, you're all right, man. Thank you.